Have you ever sat in a quiet room and felt like the silence was screaming? Not outside, but inside your chest, inside your bones. You've lived long enough to survive heartbreak, aging, even the news. But still, this whisper of anxiety finds you. And it sounds so personal, doesn't it? Like you are the problem. But what if I told you, anxiety is not kowtowing? It's proof that something deep inside is trying to wake up, that the storm you feel isn't there to drown you. It's there to return you to the shore. Here at InnerMoonlight, we don't run from our minds. We sit with them, we breathe with them, and then we let go. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, let's begin. There's a moment that arrives more often in later life. It doesn't come with fanfare or flashing lights. It comes quietly, like dusk settling over a familiar room. You sit alone, perhaps in your favorite chair, the one that's cradled you through holidays, heartbreaks, and habits. And in that stillness, something stirs. Not peace, not nostalgia, but a kind of heavy, hovering unease. The kind that doesn't scream, but sighs. You scan your memories like pages of a book you've read too many times. The children have grown, the routines have softened, the world has gotten noisier, but your house has gotten quieter. And somewhere between that soft ticking clock and the hum of the refrigerator, anxiety finds its way in. But not the dramatic, panic-driven anxiety of youth. No, this one is subtler. It wraps itself around your chest at 3 a.m., asking questions like, did I do enough? Am I still needed? What if something goes wrong and I'm alone? And the world doesn't talk much about this kind of fear. Most people assume you should have it all figured out by now, as if decades of life automatically unlock peace. But Buddhist wisdom sees it differently. In Buddhism, we are not taught to fight fear. We are taught to understand it, to greet it like an old guest we forgot we invited. Because anxiety, especially in the later chapters of life, is not a flaw, it's a signal. A trembling at the edge of identity. It is the soul's way of saying, something within you still wants to be seen. You see, in youth, we are so busy chasing, building, performing, proving, and then suddenly, we're not. And in the stillness that remains, the parts of us we've ignored begin to whisper. Regrets we silenced, emotions we postponed, questions we never had time to ask. The modern world doesn't make this any easier. We're told to age gracefully, as if grace means silence. We're told to keep active, stay positive, don't dwell. But Buddhism invites us to do something radical, to sit still and dwell deeply, not in despair, but in truth. Because beneath anxiety is often a longing for presence, for meaning, for peace that isn't bought or scheduled but remembered. Imagine a monk sitting alone in a remote forest. The wind howls, the fire crackles, no entertainment, no phone, no reassurance, just breath and awareness. And yet he is not anxious. Why? Because he does not fear being with himself. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we run from what is, but freedom begins when we sit with it. And that's what this episode is about finding your way back, not by fixing your life, but by releasing your grip on what no longer serves. So if you've ever wondered why anxiety still visits you even now, if you've sat in silence and felt the roar of a mind that won't quiet down, this reflection is for you. Not to solve you, not to change you, but to remind you, you are not broken. You are simply being called inward. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is where your greatest peace still lives. In Buddhist psychology, anxiety is not a mystery to be feared. It is a phenomenon to be traced. The Buddha didn't speak in terms of disorders or chemical imbalances. He spoke in terms of causes, and he pointed to two powerful roots that quietly fuel our suffering: attachment and aversion. Now, these words might sound philosophical, even clinical, but they're not. They are living forces. They are the hands that cling and the arms that push away. They are the invisible tension beneath so many of our thoughts, especially as we age. Think of attachment like the tightening of your fist around something you love. It might be your routines, your identity, your health, your children, your memories, your sense of control. It feels natural to hold on, especially when life begins to change without your permission. But what we hold on to tightly is what we fear losing, and fear, unspoken and unresolved, curdles into anxiety. Take the story of Helen, a retired teacher who had spent 40 years rising early, grading papers, nurturing her students. After retirement, mornings no longer had structure. Days bled into each other. The silence she once longed for became a source of dread. "I don't know who I am anymore," she told me. But it wasn't just the schedule she missed. It was the sense of purpose that came with it. The identity she had built her life around. Attachment says, "I need this to feel like me." And when life changes, as it always does, that belief becomes a cage. The tighter we cling to who we were, the harder it is to meet who we are becoming. Then there's aversion, the opposite instinct, the one that pushes away discomfort. It's the voice that says, "I don't want to feel this. I don't want to see this. I refuse to age. I refuse to slow down. I refuse to accept this diagnosis, this loneliness, this change." But aversion is also a kind of suffering, because what we resist persists, and in resisting pain we feed it. We turn it into an enemy instead of allowing it to be a message. You see, the mind does not like uncertainty, and aging brings uncertainty in abundance. Will I be okay? Will I be remembered? Will I be able to take care of myself? But rather than sit with these questions, we often run into distraction, into denial, into silent dread. That running is what fuels the storm. The Buddha taught, whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. In other words, everything changes. Our bodies, our relationships, our roles, even our own minds. Nothing is exempt from this law. Not love, not grief, not youth, not sorrow. And yet we suffer not because of change itself, but because we insist that it shouldn't. Take a moment to reflect. What are you clinging to right now? Is it a version of yourself that you wish could return? Is it the comfort of being needed? Is it a familiar identity? And what are you resisting? Is it the shape your body is taking? Is it the silence that has grown louder since others left the house? Is it the truth of mortality slowly coming into focus? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations. Because the first step toward releasing anxiety is seeing it clearly. Not as something wrong with you, but as something trying to wake you up. Just like a lotus rises from the mud, our awareness rises from discomfort. We must not be afraid to look at what is raw, what is real, what is rising within us. So pause, breathe, and whisper this small truth. What I feel is not weakness. It is a call to soften, to surrender the need for control, to return to the flow of life as it is, not as it was. Attachment and aversion are not sins. They are habits, and habits can be seen, and once seen, they can be released. Not all at once, but slowly, like unclenching a tired fist. There is a quiet miracle that happens when you no longer believe every thought that passes through your mind. It is not flashy. It doesn't trend, but it saves lives, quietly, deeply, one breath at a time. Anxiety doesn't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it tiptoes in wearing ordinary clothes, a flicker of dread while locking the door, a sudden surge of fear while preparing dinner, a whisper that says something isn't right, even when nothing has changed. This is the inner world of anxiety, not a monster, but a storyteller, and its stories, if left unexamined, can become our identity. But Buddhism offers a liberating shift, not by silencing thoughts, but by seeing them for what they are, impermanent, impersonal, and often untrue. This too is just a thought. 6 words, a gate out of the maze. Let's pause here. Say it gently to yourself, maybe even aloud. This too is just a thought. Notice the breath that follows. It's quieter now, isn't it? This practice, this simple sentence, is rooted in what the Buddha called non-identification. The understanding that your thoughts are not you. They are weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. You are not the storm, you are the space it moves through. Meet Rosa. 68, widowed, 3 grown children, 1 loyal terrier named Louis. After her husband's death, Rosa began to wake each night at 2 a.m., heart pounding, chest tight. Her thoughts swirled. What if I get sick? What if I'm alone forever? What if I'm becoming a burden? She believed those thoughts, until she didn't. Rosa started attending a weekly meditation circle. At one session, the teacher said, "The thought is not the threat, the belief is." That struck her. She began practicing a quiet mantra in the dark hours. This is just a thought. It's not me. It's not now. At first it felt forced, but over weeks the mantra became a rhythm, like a lighthouse blinking through fog. She began to see the pattern. Fear would arrive, whisper its script, and if she listened too closely, she'd vanish into it. But if she greeted it like an old familiar radio station, this again, something shifted. She returned to herself. The anxiety didn't vanish, but it no longer owned her. This is the subtle magic of Buddhist thought. It doesn't promise you freedom from difficult emotions. It promises you freedom within them. So how do you practice this? Start small. The next time a wave of anxiety rises, a spike in the chest, a tremble in the hands, pause. Ask yourself gently, what am I thinking right now? Identify it. Name it. Say, this is the thought that I might not be okay. Then add, this is just a thought. I don't need to fight it. I don't need to fix it. I only need to witness it. And if the thought comes back, say it again. This too is just a thought. Because repetition is a form of refuge. And kindness is the thread that holds it all together. Buddhist masters call this practice bare attention, the art of seeing without clinging, without judging. It is the discipline of presence. And it's more than a mental trick. It's a spiritual reorientation. You become the witness, not the prisoner. The Buddha once said, just as a rock is not shaken by the wind, the wise are not shaken by praise or blame. In the same way, we can learn not to be shaken by every passing thought. We can learn to say, I see you, thought. I know you come from fear, from memory, from habit, but I am here, breathing, watching, not believing everything you say. And perhaps over time, your thoughts will become quieter, or perhaps they won't. But either way, you'll be steadier, because you'll no longer mistake the weather for the sky. So the next time anxiety knocks, don't ask, why am I like this? Ask instead, what thought am I believing right now? And then ask again, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if not, let it go. Like a leaf on a stream, like a bird taking flight, like a burden you were never meant to carry. There is an invisible war waged inside many aging hearts, not against the world, but against themselves. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It says, why are you still afraid? Why aren't you stronger by now? You should have figured this out already. This quiet cruelty, internal, persistent, is the shadow of anxiety. And yet, in the gentle revolution of Buddhist wisdom, there is an answer so soft it's often missed. Compassion. Not the kind we offer others so easily, but the kind we withhold from ourselves, the kind we think we haven't earned. You see, many of us were raised in cultures where endurance was praised and vulnerability was hidden behind closed doors, especially for those now in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. Generations shaped by duty, sacrifice, silence. You cared for children, spouses, aging parents. You carried the burdens of others without complaint. But now, in the later seasons of life, when you finally have space to feel, the unspoken rises. And with it comes shame, as if struggling is a betrayal of the strength you once wore like armor. But the Buddha offered no reward for stoicism. He offered freedom, and freedom begins not with power but with kindness. Meet Ruth, 79 years old, former nurse, widow, 3 adult children scattered across 3 cities. She had always been the strong one, the one who held it all together. But retirement and solitude brought unexpected waves. Panic in the grocery store, heartache on quiet Sunday afternoons, an ache that medicine couldn't touch. Ruth once said, I feel foolish. I used to help people through grief. Why can't I help myself? It was during a mindfulness retreat that a Buddhist teacher invited her to try something radical. He asked the group to place their hand over their heart and say silently, may I be kind to myself in this moment. May I accept myself just as I am. Ruth couldn't finish the first sentence. Tears came. Her heart had grown used to endurance, not tenderness. But something in her cracked open that day, not in defeat, but in permission. This is the doorway compassion creates. It doesn't erase fear. It softens the ground where fear lives, because anxiety at its core is a tension, and nothing loosens tension faster than love. In Buddhist psychology, metta, loving kindness, is more than a feeling. It is a discipline, a practice of deliberately turning toward your own suffering with the same care you would offer a frightened child. So how do we do this? Start by noticing your inner voice. When anxiety arises, what do you say to yourself? Do you tighten, judge, or rush to fix? Or can you simply notice and say, this is hard, and I'm doing my best? Next time fear sits with you in the evening silence, try placing your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth. Say nothing at all, just be there with yourself as you would for a dear friend. And if the inner critic returns, and it will, meet it not with argument, but with curiosity. Ask, whose voice is this? Where did I learn that being afraid means I'm failing? You might be surprised by what you hear. Often we carry the echoes of long-gone expectations, teachers, parents, cultures that praised silence over softness. But those voices are not your truth. Your truth is this: you have survived everything you never thought you would. You are still here, still breathing, still capable of kindness. Compassion doesn't make anxiety disappear, it makes it bearable. It turns a storm into rain. It reminds you that the goal is not to win against fear, but to walk with it, hand in hand, knowing you are not alone anymore. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence." That someone includes you. So offer your presence to yourself, especially in the moments you feel most unworthy of it. You do not have to be fearless to be free. You simply have to stop abandoning yourself in your fear. Because maybe the reason your heart beats faster is that it's still calling you home. There is a phrase in Buddhism that, when truly understood, not just heard but lived, acts like a key in the lock of suffering. It doesn't scream, it doesn't promise instant transformation, but it works like water on fire, quiet and complete. It goes like this: this is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am. Read it again: this is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am. At first, it may seem like just words, a clever mantra, but behind those syllables is a truth vast enough to reshape a life. Especially for those who've carried anxiety for decades, who've begun to believe that fear is part of their DNA, their personality, their fate. The Buddha taught about anatta, the truth of non-self, that our thoughts, emotions, sensations are not us. They arise, they pass, and we mistake the weather of the mind for the sky itself. You are not your anxiety. You are the awareness noticing it. That's not a metaphor, it's a liberation. Take Walter, 82, widower. He once described his anxiety as a second skin I didn't ask for. When his wife passed, something shifted in him. The silence became a weight. The evenings once shared turned sharp and breathless. At a local meditation circle, the teacher introduced the phrase, "This is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am." Walter was skeptical, but he tried it, slowly, deliberately. One evening, seated in the armchair where grief often visited him, he placed a hand on his heart and whispered the words, not as an escape, but as a recognition. And something began to loosen. Not disappear, but loosen. Because the point is not to get rid of anxiety, it's to stop confusing it with yourself. This phrase is a three-part medicine. This is not mine. You are not obligated to own every sensation that passes through you. You can witness without possession. Fear may arise, but you don't have to cradle it like it's yours to keep. This is not me. Your identity is not your emotion. You existed before this panic. You will exist after it. You are not defective. You are not defined by your difficult moments. This is not who I am. Your essence, calm, aware, compassionate, is untouched. Like the sky untouched by passing storms. Try this the next time anxiety arrives. Don't run. Don't resist. Simply sit down. Feel your feet on the floor. Take a breath. And say gently, "This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am." Say it again. Say it until something inside you believes it. And when the feeling doesn't vanish, don't panic. This is not a spell. It's a perspective. And from that new angle, you will begin to see anxiety as a guest, not a god. Buddhist teachings were never about denying human pain. The Buddha didn't promise sunshine and eternal calm. He promised freedom within the storm. The power to stay rooted, even when the wind howls. So don't wait for life to be peaceful before you claim peace. Let this phrase become your compass. Whisper it in the dark. Speak it before you sleep. Breathe it into the cracks of your most anxious thoughts. This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am. Because the more you say it, the more you remember what you truly are. Not the fear, but the stillness beneath it. Not the ache, but the one who holds it gently. Not the storm, but the sky that remains. And now, if you've made it here, through every wave and word, take a slow breath with me. Not to escape, but to return. Because that's what Buddhist wisdom has always been about. Not fixing the world, but remembering your place in it. So as the next anxious thought arises, don't fight it, don't collapse beneath it, just notice and whisper the truth. This is not mine, this is not me, this is not who I am. And maybe, just maybe, you'll begin to feel what's always been waiting beneath the fear, your own quiet freedom.